Welcome to the Trini Tech Cast. This is episode chapter. Wow, my goodness. You know what? Anyhow, this is episode 62. My name is Mr. Charles, Andre Charles from makeITsimpleTT, and you're inside. You're into the Trini Tech Cast, where two Trinis, we seem to talk about technology for 62 episodes straight. This is quite a feat. Quite a feat. I'm still thinking about what episode 100 will be. But that is when you have a long-term mindset, because at the end of the year, I think we're going to make 100 episodes, if I calculate it properly. But we'll see how that goes. Yeah, my co-host here. Just now, wait for it, kids. Wait for it. Wait for it.
Yes, I'm Akim from Redbit Tech. Akim. Yeah, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal anymore.
All right.
You know,
I will not say that is a big deal. I will just say that our guest brought it out of you, with who I will introduce just now. But ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who always wanted to know, the name of my co-host is Akim from Redbit Tech. And his Subaru case has now become his the second part of his name. Are you going good?
Yeah, I cool for the other man.
How the Oracle going? Because you know everybody that listening want to know how the Oracle training going, you know, because I have people asking me, well, what is man doing? Where he working? I was like, I can't tell all where he working. He just need to know the Oracle.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's like the real basic foundation courses, like the Oracle Cloud Foundations. You know, so I just finishing up the course and I think I'll just go and write the exam one time tonight. And
nice.
Yeah.
You know what I do this week? I have a robotics competition with my school next weekend. There's the Lego robotics. Yeah. And it's 2 weeks before the competition. And the children and them starting to kind of get antsy and they're starting to feel the competition vibe now. And I get the competition vibe too. So the children, they had to program the robot to do a simple task. And they weren't able to do it properly, and the bell rang. And they was like, all right, so we had to go to class now. I was like, yeah, go ahead, go to class. And I sit down there and I fix it, you know. I was like, no, I can't watch this thing now working. They were so close. And I rewrite the children program. Long story short, they're like, sir, did you mess with our code? And I was like, no. I just tweak a few numbers. But yeah, I have a problem. I have a big problem. I was getting overly invested. But that's okay. You invested in Oracle. I invested in children coding our robots.
Well, for now, I just doing Oracle and I think I'll pivot into AWS one time too.
All right. Well, then I'll have to ask you some questions. You know who might know a little bit about AWS? We don't know. We're not too sure. But our guest today is Mr. Simon Fortuné. He is from Pesh. What is it called the word?
Pesh Money
Limited. No, Pesh something limited. Hold on.
Yeah, Pesh Money Limited.
Pesh Money Limited. All right. Well,
just say Pesh. Pesh is easier.
Just say Pesh is easier way to say it. Yeah. So this is Mr. Simon Fortuné. Yeah. I would have heard him on a previous podcast. Podcast I was recorded in my studio, the Big Potato podcast, and one of the hosts on that podcast is his brother. So I was like, hey, I want to talk to this guy, and he gave me the contact, and it turns out Simon listens to us. So, good evening to you, Simon. How are you going? You good?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good.
That's great to know. And
well, you live there with Akim. I'll say Pesh Money Limited is the government name, so you can just say Pesh, you know.
Yeah. Well, it turns out he's a listener to the podcast also. I didn't know that he was a listener, and he actually, to prove that he listens, he spoke about something that we said on the podcast. So, like your street cred on 100. Yeah. You validated yourself. So welcome to the show. Yeah, we start on a high note.
Yeah, good to be here. Good to chat with you all and be on the podcast. You know, as a fan, you know, first time caller, long time listener.
There's no way to grow up listening to the radio, you know. Yeah. All right. So what we normally do is we start off by just trying to find out about who you are, boys. So let's go with your technology history. In terms of, let's say, what got you into technology? So Akeem, what is getting into technology again?
Me? So for me it was like when I was younger, like 5 or 6 or whatever, like I think my dad got me a laptop and that was kind of what kind of sparked the interest. So that laptop I actually it had times I was so bored I used to just go through every single folder and directory in the computer and all the files and just look and see, what is this? What is like to just try and figure out everything. So that, as well as I have an uncle that's a computer technician and my dad is he's a security and he's a network engineer. So growing up, people like that, you kind of
it was right there.
So that was kind of my. Yeah,
I don't think you ever tell me that, that I think that's the first time I hear it. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, we'll save my technology history for some other time. Stuart, not Stuart. You know why I call you Stuart? Because every time the Stuart come and record here, I'll have to be like Stuart, because he's always have little issues with his mic and thing. Yeah, Simon, what is your technology history? Why did you get into tech? How did you get into tech? And I don't know, what was the spark?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been into computers and technology as long as I know myself, So we were very lucky growing up, to have a computer in the house. I think the first one we had, you have me like thinking like, what was the
Don't say a Commodore 64. If you say a Commodore 64,
nah, it was an IBM PS1.
Oh my goodness!
Now that I think of it, I think that was the second one actually. The first one had like them big diskettes, and it was like one of them.
The 5.5.
The first one I really remember like getting into was that PS1. And then I was always into design as well. So grow up drawing, really into art, paint, and all that type of thing. So when I started to really get into computers, like design came along with that too. So working in Adobe and Corel Draw and all of those types of things.
Corel
initial
Draw,
graphic design. Yeah.
TBT. Yeah.
So a lot of those older things, and then I got into web development, and that came along with design as well. So that was all in like secondary school and all of that.
What school did you went to?
I went to CIC.
Okay.
And then I'm one of the few, the proud convent boys for A levels.
Oh.
So I went to I did CXC and all that stuff in CIC, and then I went to convent St. Joseph, in Port of Spain. Did my physics and maths, English.
That was probably a very good experience.
Well, I'll tell you this, and I tell everybody who asks me about that, I tell them the main thing I learned from that is like, you could be smart, but like being a smart guy in that environment, like it just brought out the competition. Like, you're a boy in a girls' school and you get a higher mark from them than them. Yeah. They're like, nah. So they're coming back harder. And so it's it was a very competitive but collaborative environment, and, made a lot of friends, and it was great.
Nice. Okay, cool. So physics, maths, and what?
And English.
No, and pure maths. You said pure maths.
Oh, add maths.
Yeah. No, at GC, you did GC. Okay.
It'd be like further maths or whatever.
Further maths is what you call it. Yeah.
So
right, it's one of those.
Yeah. And then
I did physics, maths, and I did biology. So
I did biology
similar.
Me too. Yeah. I do the same thing: physics, maths, and biology for A levels. Yeah, because I just wanted to be an engineer. I was like physics and maths and whatever else it had. Yeah. So
since then, just into the logic side of things, and as well as design, so
right. Well, what I want to ask is before Akeem asks the question that he was going to ask, because I think I cut him off just now. Design is something that usually, me as a teacher, most male students that I teach, they don't really love the design. They just do it because, it is software, and because they love computers and they love to manipulate software and get software to do things, they will design for the purpose of them. But if you get them like a sketchpad and tell them draw something, they'll be like, nah, that's kind of boring. Are you into design because software gave you an outlet to release your creativity, or are you into design because you like to draw on a sketchpad or like pure art now?
Yeah, I think that design software empowered my ability to design. Right. So when I look at how we design Pesh and other software I've worked on, it's one of the foundational things with Pesh is that it had to be beautiful. Like it has to be a quality product. So like when you open the app, it has to be intuitive. It has to pop. It has to be easy to use. So from a development perspective, you could have something that works really well, but people look at it and they're like, nah, it's too confusing, or it just don't look good, right? It looks low quality, so then people kind of turn off. So when any of the projects that I worked on, specifically with Pesh, we're constantly refining that UI to make it more user-friendly, all of that stuff. So software has allowed me to really stretch that part of my creativity and my brain.
Right. Okay. Akeem had a question there.
So you mentioned, that whole competitive drive that I got while I was doing A-levels in St. Joseph. So in terms of, all right, that was A-level. So beyond that, in terms of university or work, I kind of want to know if you stayed here or if you went outside, because like for me, sometimes that drive, that competitiveness and, to kind of really fulfill some of your potential or even to get exposed to bigger things, you just need to be exposed to more than just,
Yeah. So so after my days at convent, and big up convents, it's a good school.
Yeah. My wife went convent too, so
I went to university and I started computer science there. Like that was my main thing, but I didn't really like it.
What?
To be honest, no.
Oh my goodness!
I know it's like might be shocking, especially with the audience of your podcast, but like, I didn't like it. I didn't like it because the what I was learning wasn't
practical.
It's not that it wasn't practical; it wasn't visual enough. So like I was saying, like there was a lot of back end like zeros and ones, and it just didn't click, and it was before a lot of web technologies was really had taken off. So it was I always say like if I did college like 5 years later, I would have had a different experience,
Right. Because they made you do like C and C++ and not JavaScript.
We weren't doing anything with JavaScript at that time. So it was a lot of like machine level kind of development, and I was like, I don't know, it just wasn't clicking,
Right.
So then I switched. I did management and accounting and kind of went down that path, but was still the kind of computer nerd. Still building websites, still doing all of that stuff.
No, tell us the truth. You were the one that was able to use Excel better than everybody else. And when they had accounting practicals to do, you were the one that did the spreadsheet. Tell me a lie.
Yeah. I mean, I just as you mentioned, like this is off topic, but I was working one job once, and I was able to automate like an 8-hour day into like 2 Excel macros or something. And I was like, what are you going to do for the rest of the day? But now I figured it out. But yeah, that's how I wired, it's like, but when I got into the working world, and I started I started working. I worked at Citibank in Port of Spain there for a while after university. I was there for 2 years and had a great experience there, in finance and trading and working with bonds and all of that. And
okay.
And then after that, I moved back up to the States, and then I really got into software consulting. So my background really was on Salesforce.com, which I still consult on today, which doesn't have a big footprint in Trinidad, but outside of the Caribbean.
Oh, it's huge.
It's huge. Yeah. So, that was like my main career as a Salesforce architect, right? So my data, solution architect, working with clients, figuring out what they want this platform to do, and make sure it meets their business goals as well as it's usable, So it's
right.
But that was great because it allowed me to blend the business stuff that I had learned as well as the technology side, So it's kind of like that perfect tool to build out to really get back into software development.
Okay. Now, Salesforce is almost like a template that you sell to a business and you say, okay, we could take this template and modify it to your needs, right? It's essentially something along those lines.
Is a CRM, and
Right.
it's like a underlying platform. So you get a bunch of core features, and then you kind of develop it for that business, right?
Right.
So,
but there is an element of coding in it, or plugins, kind of okay. Let's say, for example, a close resemblance would be like WordPress, sort of. If you were to dumb it down to the lowest one.
Steroids.
Yeah. If you were to dumb it down a lot.
It's probably like Odoo.
I would say for those with Microsoft experience, more like Microsoft Dynamics. But
Dynamics. All right. Yeah, I know Dynamics. Okay. Because I work with Dynamics in our company already.
Right.
Okay, great. So that Salesforce experience, it would have shaped you a lot in terms of how to handle financial things, both from a back end and a front end perspective, because you're dealing with what a customer wants to see versus what a customer wants to do.
Right.
Okay.
So
I think I love it. Go ahead, keep talking.
Yeah, that was and still is, it's just a core part of building kind of what you were talking about before, right? You're building an application, and we brought this kind of approach into Pesh as well. It's where you're building an application that many people going to use, and it has to work, right? So there's foundational pieces that have to work, and then there's certain automations that you want to build in for a full experience, So when you sign up for Pesh, you get an email, but you don't just get an email, you get an email with instructions on your next steps. You add a bank account. Okay, I added a bank account. What next? You get an email telling you, hey, there's what to do next,
Right.
It's automated, it's secure, and it's easy to use, So all of those learnings that I learned from a decade of working with clients of industries from healthcare to finance to logistics, trying to pull all of those best practices and learn from all the mistakes that were made and build a quality product for Trinidad.
All right.
And Tobago,
Yes.
So Pesh is sort of my way of taking all of those things that I've learned to build a service that I would be proud of, Not just there's a service for Trinidad. It's this is a Trinidadian wallet that anybody could use, and it is built specifically for Trinidad and Tobago,
I love it. Okay, nice. All right. Well, that's your history, and I love that I kind of understand a little bit more about your desire to design, because I have zero desire to design. I love the back end, to the point where I get happy when the black screen with white writing pop up and it says success. And I'm like, yes, because you kind of understand. But the design part is always a thing that we tend to look past, and I'm glad that came out. So in our next segment, we're going to talk about the technology that you're passionate about right now. Before we go deep into Pesha and kind of talk about the genesis, the vision, and all those different things, we genuinely want to give our audience people who actually love technology and why they love technology, because, well, we love technology. That's why we kind of started the podcast. So when we come back from the break, we'll talk about tech that Simon is passionate about. And I don't know if we'll talk about AI. I don't know if we'll talk about the central bank. I don't know if we'll talk about wherever, but we'll see where it goes. We'll be right back after this. Have you ever tried to order something online using a Visa debit card, but you can't? Is shopping online something you always do already using a Skybox, but sometimes you need advice on knowing what to buy or what will work? I'm Mr. Charles from makeITsimpleTT, and we aim to make technologies that solve problems in a Caribbean context. So we created Order It. What is it, you ask? What is Order It? It's an app and a website that helps you order it in two ways. The first way is if you already order things online. You're familiar with using a Skybox, you're familiar with using a credit card, but sometimes you don't always have answers to certain questions, like which laptops will get a warranty in Trinidad, which phones will work on the Digicel network or the mobile network. So our app helps you order it. Every product that we list in the app, we will let you know the truth based on the experience of 20 years of ordering things online and using various Skyboxes in Trinidad and Tobago. So here are some of the questions that the app answers for you based on the products that we list. What are the taxes? Why does it cost so much when I actually get it? What is dimensional weight? All these questions and more we answer in the app because we want to help you order it. All you have to do is simply pick from our list of recommended items that we know and trust because we've ordered it already. Follow through the payment process. We'll order it and we can even have it delivered to you. So why don't you give it a try? Search for Order It by makeITsimpleTT in the App Store or the Google Play Store, or you can even go online to orderit.makeITsimpleTT.com and check and see if we could answer some of your questions and help you in the process of ordering it. All right, Simon. So, when it comes to 2024, what is the one piece of technology right now that has you absolutely fascinated to the point where you will spend your free time either reading up on it, learning it, or you have a deep down desire to leave your family and spend a few days in a place with fast internet just dealing with playing with this technology? Yeah.
besides Pesh, that's like I'll spend hours a day on that. But okay. When I'm away from that, well, there's two things. One is the AI pin, the Humane AI pin.
Humane offer. You have one?
No.
Oh, okay. I want to know. I thought that only went out to journalists. Yeah.
No, but while it got some scathing reviews, it's one of those things that I'm like, I kind of want to know where this could go, you know?
Yeah.
You know, a V1 product like that, you know, it will come with, you know, a lot of disappointment, but also like, this kind of interesting. But more than that is like, because I'm experiencing this, is like Tesla's new full self-driving. I don't know if you've heard of this.
I think I read an article about it that they're going to actually release it fully, you know. Yeah.
So I have a Tesla, and it's like the best car I ever bought. It's like the hands down the best car.
Which model you have?
The Model 3. And they roll out full self-driving. So like now I could be at the mall or something, right?
Yeah.
And I could literally say home.
Yeah.
And it will drive me. Before it used to be like you're on the highway, you know, and it'll like change lanes and that type of stuff. Basic stuff now, you know.
Yeah.
That every car doing now. But like now you could like hit home and it will drive you through side streets.
So alright. So like the first time you did that, right? You didn't feel anyway.
The first time I did that, it was like hands on the wheel, you know. But I put on the brake. But I was like, I had to see how good this is. But it was like, I was like, this is the future, boy. I in the future right now. This thing drove me through the highway, through the neighborhood, through the side streets to like my mailbox, like pull up like at the house. And I was like,
this is in the US, not in Trinidad.
No, I'm not in Trinidad.
Okay.
I don't want you to disclose your location. You don't.
Yeah, sorry. Don't need to say.
You know that's my dream for 860, right? Like Trinidad is is a place where technology is, struggling. I just have a dream of that when I reach 860, which will be 20 something years from now. That's all I want. I just want to be able to drive home, and you live in that right now. So that really, really exciting you.
Yeah, it's still in beta, but even the beta is phenomenal. Like I can't believe how good it is.
So just to interject.
But it don't have pothole detection. So one time,
okay. That's what I want to ask you. Like when you're doing it, right? Because I've never spoken to anybody that has done self-driving. So I myself, I really excited right now because I have real questions to ask a real person because I do trust reviews and stuff online because they don't really ask the hard questions. When it's making decisions, right? Do you ever question a decision that the self-driving algorithm made and say to yourself, I would not do that? But then see that it made the right decision, or question it and be like, I would not do that, or look where you end up now?
Not like very rarely. Very, very rarely. Like most of the time, like I'll try it and I'll be like, it should really be taking a left here, it should really be taking a left here. And then it'll turn on the signal and the indicator will blink and it'll take it.
Okay.
All right, I did it. But, I would say, overall, I'll give it a B+,
Okay.
I'll give it, so.
And where does it lose marks?
Sometimes if you're driving and say in a road that splits from 1 lane to 2 lanes, like it don't know which lane to jump into. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So say if you're on the highway and then like your turn off have 2 lanes on it, it'd be like, do I go in the furthest left lane or the first, So then it'll be like, too sure. But that's the only thing.
Wow.
Everything else solid. But
I jealous. Honestly, I'm jealous. But I'm glad that exciting you. And I know real people that's listened to this podcast and I'll be like, you should have asked him this and you should have asked him that. How come you not ask him and ask him? But we're not here to ask all of the questions about a Tesla. We want to know about the technology that he's passionate about. So that's the Tesla, right? Now the Humane pin that I spoke about. It got some scathing reviews because of it generating heat and the signals do always work properly and it doesn't respond properly, right? And you mentioned something while you were talking, a V1 product. A version 1 product, I don't think much technology people kind of understand that version 1 sucks. And it's almost supposed to have its fair share of issues, but you have to release it because you will just be stuck in this loop of testing, and you will never get the sense of, okay, what do I really need to work on badly? And you'll have to release version 1. And the reason I know that is because, I release apps for educational apps, right? And when we were releasing version 1, I was feeling so scared because I was worried that this thing's so bad, like nobody will want to use it. But there are people who are advocates for technology and they'll say, I see the flaws here, but I could see where this thing is going. And it seems, based on what you said there, you kind of have that kind of feeling. So where do you think the Humane AI pin is going? And how will it change our life if it does get to like a version 5 that is polished?
Yeah, I think the main thing with it now is that, it doesn't depend on your phone, so if you have a Pixel or iPhone or whatever, it doesn't leverage any of the logic that's in that. It calls out, it has its own cell system, its own cellular connection and all of that.
Yeah.
So it can't really pull in all of your personal information like using Apple's assistant or Google's assistant would do. It doesn't have access to your calendar and some of those basic things. But I think if they integrated more and then you into your devices that you have, then it could be better, you know. But the V1 is always tough, you know, because you're seeing this thing inside and out, you know, and to your point, you're testing this, and we ran into the same thing with Pesh, you know. It's like the first one that was rolled out, you know, I was like, yeah, we ready, like let's go. And I was like, it working, you know, people were signing up, and I was like, all right, you know.
Yeah.
Nothing, you know. And it's one thing when you're testing with, you know, and you would know this with a smaller group of people, and when you roll it out, you're like, you know, is like, all the decisions, you know, is that all going to play out? But yeah, I mean, the first version, you know, I got an email from a lady, and she was like, is this app ageist? Like, are you trying to just tackle for like young people? Like, entering my birthday is like too hard. And I was like, enter your birthday? Like, what? But when I looked at it from her perspective, I was like, oh, all right, this makes sense. This is her issue, you know?
Yeah.
And then in a later release, we fixed that. And I emailed her specifically, and I was like, we have fixed this because, you know, when you told me this, like, it really stuck with me. And I was like, no, you know, this app has to be for everyone. So that was one of those things where, you know, the V1, like, yeah, it works. You could put in your birthday, you could hit save. But is it as usable and is it as accessible for everybody else? So then your version, your 1.1, your 1.12, all of that. Refines the product, you know.
Correct. And well, me being a teacher, I have my students. Well, when you're doing computer science at A levels now, you have to actually write a program, not a flashy program. Basically, you just have to run a C program, and I kind of have to do that at time to time and explain it to them. But since I started the company, we started app development. My method of teaching them to code has changed a lot in terms of getting them to realize that there are things that you must do, and then there are things that you have to find out via iteration. So I was like, here, what, y'all get the basic stuff, send it to me, and then I will give you all feedback. And then some people just like, no, so why would you just do the whole thing one time? I'd be like, no, if you do the whole thing one time, you might end up doing something that you think is necessary, but you may not realize that somebody just want to be able to put in their birthday that's far, far away. And it's hard to move the scrolling wheel like prices, right? And get it now. So that example, that kind of resonates with me, especially in the app development and web development process. Boy, and Trinidadians, Akeem could probably, like, you know, tell you that sometimes they have this inflated view of what technology can do and what they really expect to get out of it. And you just had to be like, no, I'm sorry, we can't do that. And they were like, but how Googlers do it? And you had to be like, they have a team of 1,000 engineers that sit down, and sometimes one engineer's job alone is just to deal with the sign-in button and make sure that sign-in button alone is doing what it's supposed to do, looks up particular and whatnot. And when it comes to the technologies that Trinidadians experience, they tend to be, especially with, like, most trainees, I think, I ain't knocking trainees, but most trainees are very, there's rush by. There's rush. They're very, they have a high expectancy of the speed that you could get things done with because of the influence of what I would say Western culture or American culture, where, so how come they do it so fast in the States? Be like, yo, there are structures in the States and those other things. And
even in the States, it take long.
Yeah, and sometimes they don't realize that. Yeah, like they'll be like, there's bureaucracy all over too. Yeah.
Well, I mean, here in Trinidad, we have a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of red tape and roadblocks. I'll show you probably.
We get to that in the next segment. While we're talking about tech you're passionate about, AI doesn't really. Have you passed the AI train? Have you or have you jumped off the AI train and said to yourself, "Yeah, it's cool, but now let's try to figure out what it could actually do"? Are you that person, or are you one that say AI is the future, and if you don't get on the train now, you will die?
That's a big question, but I believe that AI is a tool, right?
Right.
Like just like your computer, like just like Excel. I'm sure when Excel came out, people were like, "Well, we don't need accountants anymore."
Yes,
You
correct, yeah.
But it's kind of, with the computer science people in there, they would know garbage in, garbage out, right? So if you put nonsense in the AI and expect it to come out with some kind of miraculous answer, like that's not going to happen, So it's very good in my experience at, on this day at this time, it's very good at like providing suggestions. So like if I'm stuck on a problem, or I'm building a function out and I'm like, how could I do this better? How could I make this more efficient? Then it's a good tool for that. Like it'll give you recommendations, but I wouldn't trust it to just say, hey, ChatGPT, go build me a iOS app to go build me a digital wallet app for Trinidad and Tobago. Like that, it'll never, it just wouldn't do that. It doesn't know. It doesn't know. But I would say for small tasks that you just, or if you have like a creative block, you're like, I'm trying to, write this, or trying to figure, solve a problem, and you're trying to get past that block. I think it's good for that. But I'm not one of those people that's like, AI gonna kill everything, because we're very, very far from that right now. No, in 5 years, we'll see. But at this moment in time, I think we're very far from that.
Cause I mean, if you look at the trend in the past 3 years or so, with all the tech layoffs, a lot of the CEOs coming out and saying the justification behind the layoffs is, the laying off these people to go and invest in AI and AI research and all of that, So as I said, it may not be now, but all our money they're putting behind AI, I'm sure it's some of the engineers right now probably working on AI, probably working on a tool that might replace some of their own functions.
Well, I'll say there's things that those company CEOs might say, and then there's the real reason,
And this is from a man who's living in the place where those company CEOs are, and the reality is that some of the news that we kind of get fed is not always the reality of what is taking place. That's what you're trying to say. I don't know if I'm putting words in your mouth.
It's just like, I've worked on projects with clients where, forget AI. It's like, oh, we're putting in this tool, it automates these 2 or 3 things. So how many people we could lay off? I'm like, I don't know. That's not my job to answer that question. But I would push back and say, well, you have staff that knows your business, that knows your customers. So how could you make them more efficient? Like this is a tool for efficiency. How can you make it more efficient? Provide more services. It's kind of like, when online shopping took off, right? So you had like Best Buy kind of quaking, why people come in the stores. Well, they had to pivot, and they were like, well, we'll make our stores more like showrooms. Things that like Amazon can't do that. You can't go to an Amazon store, but you could go to Best Buy and get an actual person who knows what you're trying to do. And if it's not in the store, they'll order it for you. So they had to change their business model. So I think that is where people will end up leveraging AI for things like that. How could you make the customer experience better versus how we could let go of a bunch of staff, because they're not really improving your product or your service. You're just trying to hit a bottom line.
Yeah.
I love to hear smart technology people talk. Be like, oh boy, look, there are smart ones out there. Nah, for real though. It's that is how I end up doing the podcast with Akeem. I was like, this man know about technology, boy. He's smart. He could talk about it. Let's make it happen. All right. So that's your technology history, and I'm really, of course, real grateful. I'm probably say I'm grateful like 3 times because, for real, like a Trinidadian born person who still, has Trinidadian roots and whatnot, and still cares about doing something in Trinidad. That matters a lot. So, on the topic of talking about doing something in Trinidad, I really, really, really want to know why you thought that this thing would be worthwhile. No, for real. So we'll go into our next topic, which is the story of Pesh, because I want to know the technical story of this, because I know for a fact that this thing was hard to make. And I want to know why you continue doing it. What push you through. So we'll be back after the break.
In today's digital age, every business needs a strong online presence to reach new customers and stay competitive. But not every business needs a complex website or a full-fledged e-commerce solution. At makeITsimpleTT, we understand that every business has unique needs, and we offer a range of tailored solutions to fit those needs. Over the years, we've helped many businesses. Our services include website design and development. We create a professional and user-friendly website like these that represent your brand and drives results. Invoicing and payment processing. We can streamline your billing process with a user-friendly invoicing system that integrates seamlessly with most payment gateways, and you can receive online payments easily. We also do automated order forms, which allows you to collect orders online and customer information effortlessly and send back automated emails, notifications, and reminders, and then you just have to make the sale at the end. And in some cases, we offer custom software development, where we can create a specialized software system that meets your business's specific needs. But the key to all this is that we make it simple. If it's not easy for you to use, then we failed. So you can contact us today to learn more about how we can help make your business more successful. You can WhatsApp us at 1-868-308-8799, or you can visit makeITsimpleTT.com/business.
All right, we're back. So now it's time for the story of Pesh. Now, I have like 10 questions to ask. Akeem, go ahead. You ask your first question, and I will see if that question is one of mine. But
yeah, I mean, more or less the same thing. You said you moved on. You was doing Salesforce consulting and stuff like that. So some people, once they move beyond Trinidad, they don't really look back. So what kind of inspired you, and what brought about that urge, and cause I mean, it's a big problem to tackle in Trinidad, being that, e-money adoption or digital adoption, even people doing online payments or having bank accounts, is a big hurdle in terms of Trinidad. So what inspired you to really try and tackle that problem, and I mean, to push through it, why, I mean, I know question it, and I grateful that, somebody, still, they want to make things happen in Trinidad, but, what was the reason and the drive, and, for you, pursuing Pesh in Trinidad, the genesis of it?
Yeah. There's a few, I would say there's a few things, one is like, I would come back to Trinidad like fairly frequent, so it's not like I flew out and come back like in 5 years, or, there was never, every year I would be back home for a visit, wedding, Christmas, whatever reason. Mm-hmm. So I've never not had that connection, even though I've been, outside of Trinidad for a long time. I'm still very connected. But I think for me, it was when I traveled, I went to India for a project, and I was like in 2018 or so, and for like a business travel. And I saw people buying just street food with their phones, So like some people were using cash, but people just paying with their phone. And I was like, you buying the equivalent of doubles. You're buying dal and rice, you're buying street food with your phone. And then I was like, why we can't do that in Trinidad? You know, like a lot of times you travel around and or you just go to somewhere else and you're just like, man, why we can't have that in Trinidad, boy? And that was sort of like the driving fact, the driving thing of like, now, I have the idea of like, what could I do to give back? And that sort of gave me the drive of my vision at some point is that you could go to a doubles vendor and pay with your phone, right? Just tap to pay or pull out the thing and be like, add whoever doubles and just pay them. And that was back in 2018. And I'm just kind of one of those guys who, once I see a problem, I just have like, it just nags me until there's a solution, So I was like, well, who's going to solve this? And I was like, well, I could do that. I do this for other people. Like, why I can't do that for Trinidad? Like, it can't be that hard. And I was like, the worst words I ever said, right?
Okay.
But that's always been my attitude.
So
to my detriment,
So when we write the book, right, we're going to write the book and say, one day I traveled to Mumbai and I saw somebody buying dal and rice. And I was like, I want to buy dal and rice with my phone too, aka doubles, dal and bara.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so that's it. That was the inspiration, right? Now,
yeah.
Inspiration is a weird thing because you see a problem and you say to yourself, I think I could solve that. Probably because you saw somebody else do it. So it kind of reminds me of me and jumping off waterfalls, right? So I like to hike real plenty. And whenever I go to a hike and there's a waterfall that people say you could jump off, I will not be the first person to jump off the waterfall. I will watch somebody else jump, watch our next person jump and be like, okay, that person is about my height, my build, my age or whatnot. If they could do it, I could do it too. So then I climb up the waterfall, and the first time I ever had to jump off a waterfall, I questioned my stupidity. I was like, are you really stupid or? Like, look at me standing up over this body of water, probably about 20 to 30 feet below me. Just because I saw somebody else do it, I gonna try to do it too? Am I dumb? Did I have overconfidence or something like that? So I jump into the waterfall, and since then, it's gotten a lot easier because now okay, it could be done. You just had to overcome the initial feeling, right? So let's go through the first 6 months of you taking on this project. Because in that first 6 months is where you decide, I done. Or, okay, I think I know where the roadmap is. I just need to stick it through. So let me hear the 6 months. From a technical perspective, I can remember our audience is... They know stuff about stuff.
Yeah. So it was.
Before that, you don't have to give away any trade secrets. But if you do give away any, I know you're smart enough not to do that. So go ahead.
No. I'm not. No. I would say from. It's one of those things where I was like, okay, well, this is the problem, right? So, what's your problem statement, right? So like, I want to send my mother $20 with my phone, right? So how do I do that? And then from a technology perspective, I think for the listeners out there, it's like, okay, well, you can build a tool, right? But in order for you to be able to launch it, you have to have like the different, licenses or the permissions
integrations
to do that, the integrations, right?
Yeah.
So if you are building, like in our case, it was like kind of setting individual milestones. And that's kind of what got me through the first 6 months. It was like, all right, I want to build this application, I'm very good at the front end kind of development side of it. I need a back end person, right? So it would have been like, hey, Andre, you like the back end, I like the front end. Let's team up and build the application, right? So the developers that I work with kind of have that back and forth. It's like, all right, I need an API to do this. I need a function to do this. I will make it look beautiful and make it work well, but you build out the backend. Yeah, you build out the initial model,
the database and the API calls
and the
and those sort of things,
connections and all of that sort of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of that backend developer, front-end developer kind of working.
Right.
Figuring out the frameworks that we're going to use, the database structure, encryption, secure connections, all of that. And then
What framework? Sorry, if I could ask that.
On the front end framework.
Yeah.
It's Ionic.
Ionic. Okay, Ionic. I thought it was Flask. I thought it was Flask or Angular. Well, I don't know.
Oh yeah, Ionic is kind of built on top of Angular. Well, I mean, it could speak to Angular and React and all of these sort of things. But I liked, and that's one of the things, for the tech listeners, it's like you wanna select a framework that really kind of fits how you want your application to work, that's well supported, well documented, has the components that you need,
Documentation, oh boy. You mean Stack Overflow? Sorry.
Like it has to, you have to do a lot of research and you have to break some things, Right. So the first 6 months was identifying like what the technical framework would look like, put in like what APIs we're going to use, what backend services we're going to use, and kind of stitching all of that together. And while that was being done, I was in Figma, kind of putting the overall like workflow and all that.
Oh wait, you're a Figma user? I thought you would be like Illustrator, Adobe kind of guy.
Well,
Adobe ended up trying to buy. They tried to buy over Figma, but I mean.
Yeah, I use Figma a lot. Figma is great for wireframing, and as I'm looking at features like to build, I'll build it out in Figma first. Even today, I'll be like, all right, I want this, and I'll sketch it out in there, and then I'll figure out, So that's kind of the design process. But the
right, okay.
But the technology side, I would say, the tech side of it was the easier part in that the tools already kind of exist, right? You want to spin up AWS, that's there. Or you want to spin up Google, that's there. You just need an email address and you can like spin up these tools. But it's showing the regulators that you've kind of covered all your bases, and that back and forth, that took a long time, because they're very thorough, especially the central bank, because if you think about it, you're building like Pesh is an app, it connects to your bank account. So you need regulatory approval, and without that regulatory approval, you can't really move forward. So it was a lot of that, back and forth of showing them the tool that we built, the structure that we built, is secure, makes sense.
No, I have real questions popping up right now. So, did you speak to somebody who is conversant with technology, or you spoke to somebody who's conversant with accounts and business and finance? Because sometimes when you're building things and you talk to somebody and you're like, oh yeah, so the API does this, and they're like, the AP what? And you're like, oh wait, you don't know about technology, so that means I have to translate what I'm saying for you to understand. Don't call any names, but just kind of run through that process of the integrations and the regulatory approval.
I would say I didn't have that experience. The technology people that had to kind of sign off on Pesh. And this was just, mind you, this was just to get the provisional approval, like, to then move forward to do all of the other things. That they knew what they were talking about.
Okay. See, that gives me hope. Me hope.
Yeah. No, they knew what they were talking about, but your it's not just the technology side, but do you have your user policies in place, like your privacy policies, all of those things outside of the application? Like, is this a full-on service that's baked? you know. So like when you go to peshmoney.com, you could see all of our privacy policies, the user policies, all of that stuff is all kind of covered, you know. So they're looking at you as an overall service, you know.
And I guess too, in terms of security, you would have had to meet certain compliance regulations. Were they also interested in security?
Oh, very, very.
Yeah.
That was like one of the biggest things was how secure is this, you know? So, you know, we had to make sure the app, you know, had penetration tested and all of that stuff. Stuff that, you know, your audience will be like, well, I assume that, you know, they tested. Yeah. But you have to like show like, hey, we tested it, you know, we put it through the ringer. Those types of things, you know.
So where do you get a pen tester? You'll just go on Fiverr and be like, find a pen tester and tell them here's the application. Tell them what you find.
No,
and
they have
send a report.
No, they have different pen test services, you know. So you could get a company to do it, or you can get different online services. You could build it into your DevOps process. There's a lot of different ways that you can incorporate that into your service. But security was a big part of Pesh, you know, and especially with the climate at the time of us launching, or when we had our full launch last November, it was like a week after TSTT. Not to like, not to mess with TSTT, but it was just like it just happened at that time.
Your name is not Shiva, I'm Tilak Singh. Go ahead, it's cool.
So it was like, you know, we've you know ensured that our platform is secure, you know, and showing that to the central bank and the regulators and stuff, because you know we want to make sure that when you add your bank account information, it's secure. You're topping up your account, you're withdrawing, all of that is done in a secure manner.
Okay. So I have a question. I'm not sure if you could actually answer it, if it will be like a secret, you know, but well, something you don't want to release. So in terms of like the payment processor in the background, is it like an international processor or using like a regional processor in terms of, you know, payment processing?
Like if you're topping up your account and if you're withdrawing?
Yeah.
So so everything that we do for adding funds or withdrawing funds runs through the local bank network through the ACH.
Oh, the ACH, okay.
Yeah. So that was another thing. We wanted it to use proven tools. Specific. When I say we built it for Trinidad, like it had to connect to Trinidad banks, you know, and the ACH is the most efficient way of doing that. So that's not like a trade secret. That's like...
Yeah,
that's come on, please. It's just the time with the ACH, and the time frame.
Timing. Yeah. So when you're in the app and you say you top up your account, you know, you throw $100 on there. The email that you get from us will tell you, you know, 1 to 2 business days type of thing, because that's just where the nature of banking integrations are in Trinidad. The other reason why we went to the ACH was to give the best price point. So it's $5 to add funds to your account. It's $5 to withdraw funds. So it's a flat fee. You know, other services, if they're running through like, you know, add funds with your Visa card, like you have a variable cost with that. You know, it's a flat processing. But because I'm not really running through Trinidad services, there's a variable cost because I'm running through the Visa settlement, you know? And we didn't want that. So that was a big part of, I wanted Pesh to be simple. So it's like $5 to top up, $5 to withdraw, no fees for person-to-person transactions. And then in our latest release, when we first launched, we had $1,000 cap. Like you could only send somebody $1,000 at a time. But in our latest release, we were able to remove that. So now if you want to send somebody, if you have a balance of like 9,000, you could send somebody 9,000 in one shot. Because in the budget last year, the minister announced that they were doing away with some of those limits. So that legislation removed that updated legislation removed that transaction cap, and we were able to like incorporate that into the app. So version 1.3 has like no transaction limits. So those are the things like we have to make sure the app is evolving as the legislation evolves in Trinidad, and things kind of get better.
So like in terms of the use cases, you'll have person to person, and I guess ultimately, the thing that sparked the initial interest in this paying like a vendor for a service or to purchase a service or a product, So what are the current use cases, and are there any use cases that, you're looking ahead or you plan to introduce into, to Pesh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The main use cases are you want to, I'll give you an example, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I was home for Christmas, we were having like a big lunch, right? So my brother was like, I'll pick up all the curry, right? So you buy a sort of roti, duck, goat, all this, like a full spread. And I was like, well, I'll pay for half of it, So I pull out my phone and I send him the money on Pesh, and that was that. But otherwise you would have to go to the ATM, you're taking out cash, or you're like, all right, I'll do it digitally. So, hey, bro, what's your bank account number?
Yeah.
And the thing about, and then I have to put it in, I have to hope I put it in correctly.
I
was like, you get, and then he'd be like, I'll wait, just eliminate all of that. You take your phone out, in 2 seconds, he had his money, and then he could use that however he wants, So that's like the main thing. It's like for all of those like normal day-to-day things that you do with cash, I want you to do it with your phone, because, people are always like, I'm afraid I'll get hacked, right? When I was home, people like, I'm afraid I'll get hacked. Like, people are going to know my bank account information. And like, well, how are they going to know that? Well, when I pay my barber, he gives me his bank account and I pay my barber with that. It's like, your barber is giving away his bank account information to somebody he just cuts in his hair. Like, you don't even know this person.
Yeah.
But, you go to a function and they have a bank account number on the table. It's like, make donations here. It's like, people just put their bank account information everywhere. And then they're like, how did we get hacked? It's like, well, because you're putting it everywhere,
Yeah.
But with Pesh, you don't have to share your bank account information with anybody. You just send it to them, and then you withdraw whenever you're ready.
Yeah. Okay. So, okay. Well, the audience angle, let me not ask the hard questions. So, hard question is this, right?
Yeah.
You sent him the money for the duck and the roti one time, and it went to his Pesh wallet.
Mm-hmm.
For him to withdraw that and get it back and get it into his bank account, he's going to have to wait 2 days, probably, to actually see that money in his bank account. Yes? No? Maybe?
Withdrawals, if he withdrawing it, he'll get next day.
The next day? Okay. Yeah. And that is...
Sometimes you get same day, depending on if the AC...
What the time you do it here, because sometimes when you do it before 11 o'clock in the morning is work, right? Yeah. But the Pesh is...
the next business day he get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So the Pesh is a wallet that he could hold the money there if he wants to and then transfer it to another person, because the money has already been withdrawn from a bank account and it's basically held in your safe. So let me put it this way, like you have a big safe called the Pesh safe, and people, when they take their money out of their bank and they give it to the app, it goes in the Pesh safe. And that Pesh safe is secure. It has met all the regulatory approval. So technically, you're acting as a digital bank with no interest rate.
Yeah. Thanks for that caveat. Yeah, I mean, the reason why, it's all to align with the regulation, right? Mm-hmm. So for any e-money issuer in Trinidad, you have to have a separate, it's just in the law, central bank. It's not like trade secrets. It's just how it is.
Yeah.
You have a separate holding account that's separate from your operations, right? Mm-hmm. So when you add funds to your wallet, that's in that separate account.
Okay.
And it has to be there legally. So if Pesh goes under, if a year from now I'm like, this day, we're gonna close for whatever reason.
I'm gonna live in the hills and live off the land.
Yeah. So if for any reason that happens, the users don't have to worry about, hey, I gonna get my money back. It's like, because it's in a separate tank,
Right. Okay.
And that's all part of the regulation. So if you want to add your funds and then let it sit there for a month or whatever and then withdraw, which some people do, then when they withdraw because that it already there. Their funds are already there because they added it themselves.
Okay.
So yeah.
That's hard question number 1.
Yeah.
Hard question
That's an
number
easy one.
All right. This one is the harder one. As a teacher, the first question has always be easy when you're doing your homework and then you go down.
Yeah.
Red tape. Red tape in Trinidad and Tobago is a thing. I've bounced up red tape. Akim's bounced up red tape. Anybody that has to do anything with respect to making life better with technology, you always bounce up some red tape. And for lack of a better word, old people who do not want to allow you to put this thing in place because either they fear it, they don't understand it, or it simply is not in their best interest because they want things to work a particular way. What red tape you bounce up, and how did you manage that red tape without incriminating anything and saying anything bad? Yeah.
No, I would say the main red tape was just trying to stitch everything together. So like, in order to do certain things with the bank, with just commercial banks kind of thing for ACH, right? You need to have regulatory approvals. So it's like, okay, well, I have to make sure I have to get the licensing before I could do this thing with the bank, before I could provide it to the users, before I could roll out the app, right? So it was just working through each of the red tape at each institution, right? I think I've heard you on the podcast before talk about, opening up a bank account, right? Maybe not, but like,
No. We speak about that fairly regularly.
Yeah. So like, if you want to open up an account, you have to provide like a ton of documents, right? So that's one bit of red tape. And then I want to open up a business account. Well, what's your business? Well, I want to provide digital wallet services for Trinidad. Whoa.
Yes. You're speaking it, yeah.
So it's like, what does that mean? Because it's like, you're not opening up a hardware, you're not opening up a grocery, you're not opening up like a known thing. And at that, Pesh is one of 3, well, I guess 2 operating wallets in Trinidad. 3. Yeah. So it's not like a widespread entity, right? So one of the red tapes you're jumping in is just like informing people of what you're trying to do. And then,
in layman's terms, because we technical people, we tend to inform people in a way that says, it's just a digital currency that's going to be transferring money from one place to another, right? But the layman is be like, transfer? How? What do you mean? How it going to transfer? Like what? Where somebody picking it up in a car? Is it going in a bag? And you can't even dream about talking about protocols and HTTP and API and all that. And you want to say, oh, this thing is so secure because it's using this SHA encryption and all that.
Yeah,
but then you have to stop and be like, you gotta be like, well, there is a cloud in the sky on the left side and there's a cloud on the right hand side. We make an imaginary plane, take this stuff from one cloud into another cloud. And then they'll be like, oh, okay. And that's just an analogy, right? Did you have to go through that in any major way?
I would say not that per se, because like when you're working with the regulators to get approval, they have people who, like you who know your stuff.
Yeah.
I would say the working outside of that, it's the how do I say this? The main red tape. Let me put it like this: the main red tape that I had to deal with was the Trinidadian tax, right? Where everybody think you're out to scam somebody, right?
Okay.
So it was if that makes sense. So it's like
yeah. The trick of daddy and tax basically, yeah. Once you put in technology in place,
right?
yeah, you're trying to do things better.
Yeah.
Nope, nobody ever does anything better. What is in it for you and how you're robbing me?
Yeah, how you're robbing me, right? So everybody think, oh, you're going to thief people money, or there's a government take, all that sort of nonsense. So you have to get in over that, because you have to build trust with all of the stakeholders you're working with, So you have to build trust with the regulators, you have to build trust with the banks, you have to build trust with the end users, So I would say like that's the biggest red tape. I mean, everybody's had, struggles just registering their business. Like if you're just trying to register a business in Trinidad, like that's I think they just launched a whole service just to do that. Like some private company just launched a service like, you want to register a business in Trinidad? Let us do it for you, right?
I used that private company before they were advertising. I used them in 2019 or something and I was like, here's $750, do it for me.
So like people are used to those types of experiences. But for me, with entering a whole new space, is like the red tape was like building that trust, and that just took time, And you asked me before about like why, like you're
bored or something.
It was just like you had like these little wins, It's like, okay, I have this idea, and I got a meeting with the central bank, so that's a win, right? So let me see where that goes. And then they said, well, in order to do this, you need to do X, Y, and Z. So it's like, all right, but that's my next milestone. And then eventually, when the e-money policy came out, I was like, okay, well, that's the next milestone. Getting the regulatory approval and building the app to meet that and launching, So that was the main driver. It was, there was a lot of points along the way because they had COVID in there too. So it was like, that was basically a year where it was like, is this thing ever going to take off, But eventually, with perseverance and a bit of naivety, just like, why not? Why can't I do this? This thing seems so easy, We eventually were able to launch the app, and that was a good feeling, because then it was like, all right, your thing is out there,
Right. Yeah.
Let's see where it goes, and so far it's been great. I mean,
So I mean, as we're on this topic in terms of that and stuff. So in terms of like I know you'll probably have your KPIs in terms of you start off, you probably think in terms of adoption or financial, and along the way you probably encounter things where in terms of the whole digital wallet adoption rate, or even people having bank accounts, So, in terms of, you'd probably have a vision that you had, in the beginning in terms of things. And as you say, along the way, you're making progress and you're hitting milestones, So in terms of, like you say, next 5 years, what's your vision for PESH? You say you seem to be heading in the right direction, but like you say, everything go according to plan, you meet certain milestones. Say next 5 years, where you see PESH being in terms of the whole landscape, digital landscape in Trinidad?
Yeah, I mean, the ultimate goal is for PESH to be the official digital wallet of Trinidad. Like everybody have it. It's like a default, It's kind of like where I am, it's like Venmo is like the default. You're gonna pay somebody, you just take out your phone, you're like, what's your Venmo name?
Yeah.
And you just pay them. Like it just there.
Second nature, sort of.
It's just second nature. Like, that people use it, people love it. I mean, I'm not gonna give away like all of the full roadmap, but like the ultimate thing is like PESH is as normal. It's just there. It's like you're gonna buy coconut water and you just pay the man, right? And you go your way. I think the we're not there yet, but to eventually have it where you don't have to top up your account. It just linked to your bank account. You just pay the person and it goes straight from your account to their account.
Like seamless integration.
Seamless. So
if I was sitting on a meeting, I'd be like, in 5 years, seamless integration, or in 3 years or something like that. I guess you'll probably had a meeting like that.
Yeah. So right, that's the goal, is that it's that everyone just uses it and it fits. If you're small, I mean, even today, I guess if you're a sole proprietor or an individual person and you want to use it, you could do that, you know. But we're not my goal is not to just build another, like, we got a lot of questions when we launched. It was like, could I use this for my business? Could I replace my point of sale machine? We're like, we're not really that's not my goal. My goal is not to make another point of sale machine. You know, if we're gonna make a point of sale machine, it could be better than a point of sale machine, right? It's going to be more seamless, as you say.
Right. So hard question number 3. This one is going to be the toughest one.
All right.
As we wrapping up, because we'll wrap up after this. Competition. When it comes to competition, there are certain names that come up, and I am obligated to mention those names and see your facial expression, right? so Encash, WePay, and I can't remember the name of the one, TSTT. Paywise, and there's one that TSTT trying to do. I can't remember the name of that, right? Are you?
You forget Digicel.
Digicel has a what? For real?
Well, they got a license, but
no. Okay, I'm talking about things that
things people could use.
Yeah, things people could use. Yeah. Where are you on the competition vein? Or, you know, there are usually two roads that technology people take. I run in my own race. I know the problem that I'm trying to solve, and I'm going to continue trying to solve that problem. If anybody else wants to try to solve that problem, go right ahead. I know how hard it is, and I know I am a step ahead of you. Or it could be like, oh my goodness, they come in for me. Let me try to make sure my feature set matches them, or you're watching the competition. Now, by default, I think most technology people don't watch the competition because they just focus on the problem. But when those names are called, do you feel any sort of either competitive drive to say, hey, this thing competitive, let's try to stay ahead of the curve? Or do you feel like, yeah, I know what I'm doing and I know what I'm going to about,
Yeah. I would say both. So, you know, because I'm not just having an app, like, you know, we're running a business, you know. So you have to keep your eye on the competition. The thing about it is Pesh is definitely different than any of the other providers out there, in that, and this is how I deal with the competition, is like, you just build a better product, right? So one of the main differentiators is, you know, besides security, everybody could say they're secure, right? Everybody could say easy to use, but I think hands down, our app is the most intuitive application out of all of them. So that you could just install it. You don't need instructions. You're just up and running. The differentiator that we have, and what I really push for, and is why it kind of took us a little bit longer to get to the market, because, you know, it had to be a flat fee, right? So it had to be one, you know, flat $5 to add funds and withdraw. The other competition, it's, you know, one fee to add funds, one fee to withdraw, you know, $5 to add, $10 to withdraw, or you have to do a credit card. So you don't know exactly where the numbers land in. You can't use your Trinidad accounts to add funds and withdraw. You could add funds with a credit card, you could withdraw with your bank account. So it's too complicated. Now, I'm not telling these other companies like how to run, because like, I know my lane. I know this is how we want to run our service, right? So it's one thing to look at, you know, what other services they're offering, because they all focus on different things, you know.
Yeah.
WePay is focused on different services. They just launched the color card and things like that, and that's all great. Like, build stuff.
Yeah.
As long as it's making it easy for people to kind of to use, but
integrate or adopt.
Yeah, but it's, I think for us it is really focusing on this thing has, this service that we have here, people have to enjoy using it, and we have to make it easier for people to use. It has to look good. Like, it can't just be somebody stitched something together, and that's what I hear about, other services. It's like, well, who built this? Like, it's look like they did this. They just took like some template and they kind of retrofit it in here. Though it's hard to navigate,
Right. Yeah.
And then some of those services you can't use outside of Trinidad. Like, I signed up for it. I travel. I try to log in. I can't log in. I'm like, why can't I log in? Like, you have to be in Trinidad. Like, you can't have a non-Trinidad phone number. Like, there's things like that where they I don't know what the reason is, but it's those are things that we are avoiding in our service.
Okay. Good answer.
I mean, I'll give you an example before we go. Like, just before we launch, there's a little, like, trade secret. It was like the week before we launched, and your tech folks would enjoy this, right? And we're putting together everything for the event, everything looking good. We're ready to like hit publish on the app stores, like everything. I there drinking a little beer, like relaxing, and I'm like, this is gonna be real good. And then I'm like, still doing some testing. So I had my cousin. I was like, sign up. Here's the private link. Test it out.
Yeah.
And she added her mobile number, and she wasn't getting her SMS verification. It's like, what's going on here, boy? So then I put in my phone number and I get my verification, and I'm like, how it working for me? I now working for her.
Classic technology, yeah.
And it's like, a week before we're gonna launch, like it has to work, right? So then I was like, all right, well, the difference was that my SIM card was on Digicel and hers was on TSTT. And everyone that I tested with, none of the TSTT people were getting the SMS. All the Digicel people were getting the SMS, right? So I was like, I don't know how this happened, because like a month before, everything was working. Digicel, TSTT, they were both getting their codes. But like the week before we launch, and anybody who's ever done a software demo knows things go break, like when you're demoing.
Oh yes, for sure. Yeah.
But that was like, because of how we had built the service, I was able to say, all right, everybody in Trinidad have WhatsApp, we'll just go with WhatsApp. Change one line of code to change the channel from SMS to WhatsApp. Tested it worked while, like, I don't know, TV6 News was on. I was like just watching the news, like laptop on lap, like, all right. It worked. She tested it, I tested it, family tested it. I was like, all right, WhatsApp gonna be the channel now, And
you had to update the documentation on the emails and all that different things after.
Yeah, and that was like 3 days before we launched.
Wow. Yeah.
But those are the things that just because we have such a drive for this service to be such a high quality for users. Like, that was a non-negotiable. Like, we have to fix this. Like, it have to happen now. And ever since we launched, that's every step we've done is to make it more secure, faster, better. More user-friendly.
Intuitive, yeah. All right. Final question before we go and we wrap up. Where did the name Pesh come from?
I was looking for a name for a while for small change, like, money. And I Googled, I was like, Caribbean words for money. Yeah. And Pesh came up, and I was like, Pesh, I never hear about that. But then I pulled out my courtesy cotilla, and sure enough, in there,
boy.
and then I was like, all right, I'll kind of like that. And then I did, I asked my parents about it. It was like, yeah, we used to use that when we were children. And I was like, all right, well.
Okay.
It is.
And then I liked it because it was simple. It rolls off the tongue, it's 4 letters, like just Pesh, and the domain was available, Pesh Money. So I snagged it, and built the whole service around that. And it was funny because like when I was meeting with like the central bank and stuff like that, people ask the same thing. Like the younger people there who were asking questions, like, where you get this Pesh thing from? And the older people were like, we used to use such children, and So it was it is something that when I say building it for the culture, like down to the name, like everything has to be has to reflect. So
I love it.
It's been quite the journey, I'll tell you that. But yeah, Pesh Money. Let's go to peshmoney.com and you could.
Yeah, and I mean, Pesh is the only app out of all that I actually have on my phone. Out of all the wallets, I'll admit that I ain't actually use it as yet, but.
I have it installed, but I didn't use it. I reached the point of I think linking my bank account and I put on my phone. But
but we have to now that we had Simon. We need
I'm
to
sold.
do it.
I'm sold. I'm going to.
No, but even with the bank account stuff, we made that more intuitive as well.
Oh, for real? Okay.
Yeah, we had to because people were messing up with that. People so
Yeah.
used to putting the bank account number wrong, like they were putting it in wrong. So we had to improve that usability.
Okay. So you had some like validation going on.
Well, what was happening was like when you add your bank account, you just select your bank, right? So you just be like RBC or Scotia or whatever. But and then you put in your account number. But people were selecting their bank and putting in their routing number with their account number, and it was like, well, that's not gonna work. So we had like a bunch of revisions to make that more intuitive. And
okay.
So yeah,
but I'm really glad that we had this conversation because I understand 3 things. I understand that you have the technology bad mind. that technology bad mind. No, for the listeners, for when you're in technology, you need to have a bad mind that says, I am going to solve this and celebrate the small goals as they go along. I understand that the red tape is not as bad as I thought it would have been, because I really thought you had a horror story to tell, but no, your story wasn't that horrible. And
that's a whole other hour and a half.
We'll come back to this sometime next year for sure. Sometime next year for sure. After we use it a few times, and then the third thing is we have a future. You have a plan, and you mentioned a roadmap, and that's one of the things that as a Trinidadian we don't really think too far ahead. And in technology, you have to think ahead. Because you need to know what you're aiming for, because it takes time and you don't want to put effort into something that you didn't flesh out properly. Yeah. So I love that. Those are 3 things. So Simon boy, I really appreciate it, and I want to thank you for being here to the point where I am late for a YouTube live that I'm supposed to be on right now because my students waiting for me to do revision for their CXC exams. But I had to let it run for like an hour and 20 minutes, almost an hour and a half. So thanks a lot, man.
No, this was good, man. This was good. I enjoyed it, and it's good to just talk about technology and how we could improve everything in Trinidad and little steps forward. Little one step at a time.
Nice. All right, so my name is Mr. Charles, Andre Charles from makeITsimpleTT. You could find me anywhere on the internet except LinkedIn, because as you know, it's a running joke. I created a LinkedIn account at the start of the year and I have posted nothing to it. And as soon as the exams finish, hold me accountable. Please, somebody keep me accountable. Please tell me to start to put some stuff on LinkedIn. The podcast clips would be nice up on LinkedIn. That was my goal, but So I'd make it simple, TT. And my co-host, whose government name partially has been revealed is...
Yeah, I'm Akeem, and that's from Redbit Tech, Redbit_Tech. You could find me in most places, and on LinkedIn. Well, on LinkedIn, I'm Akeem.
Hey, and you posted 3 TikTok videos this week. I think I
Oh,
saw
yeah,
3.
yeah.
3, right?
I think so, yeah.
You know, we have a running joke, Simon, about us on TikTok. We have a love-hate relationship with TikTok, but yeah, to do it. And where do we find you, Simon? Where we find the company, and where do we find you? I don't know if you're one of those that share your personal journeys on social media, or if you're just behind the company alone. Yeah, so go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not a huge social media person, but you can follow Pesh on all of the socials. So Instagram at peshmoney.com, Facebook at peshmoney, or go to peshmoney.com for all of the latest information. We just completely redid the website today, so it should be more intuitive and easier to use. So just go to the website, and you could download the app, the Peshmoney app, on the Android and Apple stores.
Nice. All right, folks. So that's it. Thank you very much, Simon. Thank you very much. So it's going to be so weird saying Akeem now, but I am going to start saying thanks for everybody for listening. And for those of you all who made it to the end, which is basically 99% of our listeners, once somebody starts, they just have to finish. So to the 50 of you all who made it all the way to the end, we thank you very much. And hey, we look forward to getting your feedback. If you have any feedback at all, you could message us. And somebody gave me feedback this week, but I can't remember. Oh, no, people start sending me articles and say, talk about this now, talk about that.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, oh, look at you all feeding us the news. Next thing we'll get like an informant. Imagine if somebody from TSTT say, hey, some tea for you. Long story short. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. We will see you all next week for episode number 63. Interviews supposed to start ramping up because usually going out to get the people to interview is a task for me. So as soon as exams finish and my the hard part of my day job is finished, I will start to get some more interviews with some cool people in technology. So that's it for today. We'll see you all next week when we talk more about technology from a Trinidadian perspective later.